Hello, today on the art department I'm finishing the painting. It's got the black cover over the top at the moment. This has just been sprayed with matte medium, no not matte medium, sorry, a matte varnish finish over the black paint. So that all needs to come off now. It's been all taped up, so the colours will be coming through on the image. And as you can see, the tape's coming off here and it's revealing that colour underneath. And the colours underneath are gloss. So they've been finished with a gloss varnish. So then there's that contrast with the matte of the black. So when you walk past, you get different views of the image. It almost gives a bit more of a three-dimensional aesthetic to it. So the tape's being taken off. I'm doing it by hand at the moment. I will start working in with a knife to lift some of the tape up. And I'll speed up some of the video as well, so it starts to unveil a bit quicker, and I'll show different views as well. But at the moment I'm quite happy with how that's coming out. I'll start getting the major newsprint sheets off in a moment, but yeah, as you can see now, a close-up of the colours coming through. I've got finesse tape, frog tape and masking tape, so a mixture of the three. The finesse tape gives you the really fine lines, and it's a brown colour, and that usually goes around the edge of every main shape. I then go round the finesse tape with the frog tape, which is the green. That then allows for a better finish and more secure when spraying, because sometimes you can get leakage underneath. And I have had that with this tape before. What I've been doing recently is sealing the tape with an air gun beforehand. So the brown tape is sealed with the air gun first, or the heat gun, and rolled down quite tight. I then put the frog tape on to make sure it's at the same, because when frog tape's added, it adds a different level to the brown tape, and I think that's not sealing it properly when I'm going over it with the roller. Once it's all taped up, I then put newsprint round and masking tape that to the frog tape to cover the larger areas. Then it gets 2 coats of a clear acrylic medium, and the reason being, the clear acrylic acts as a paint or a sealant around the edge, so any leakage is then see-through and you can't see any residue or anything. Give that 2 coats and allow that to dry, then I can add the colours. And here, as you can see what I'm doing, there was a slight leak on that, but because the black paint is on the gloss, you can just scrape it off. Usually when it goes straight onto the gesso, it's harder to clean off, and I have to use something called Goo Gone to do that. And I use a cotton bud and swab the edge to get a nice even finish around the edge. Now I'm just taking off all the small areas of tape to unveil this detailed section around the top of the image. And it's quite a nice contrast on this at the moment. This really shows up, especially with the matte paint against the gloss. Obviously it's better to see it in real life rather than on a video, but it should be okay. Once this is finished, the next stage will be to mount the image onto a stretcher, which I've already done earlier on in an earlier video to put the gesso on, and that was to allow the shape or the edge of the gesso to then match up with the frame. So when I come to put it back on the frame, probably next week, the painting will be it'll be fast job, because it already fits that frame. There's no movement or anything. It's the same frame that it started with, and all the lines are marked out, so it should be quite quick. The fact is though, with this, I can already see at the top, when you take the edge off, where I've stapled the canvas or linen to the board, so it doesn't peel off. Where it's got wet over time, and even just slightly with the airbrushing and things like that, the linen moves, and you can see it's pulled areas out of shape, so it's not a dead straight line across the top. But as it goes on, the stretcher, I can adjust that with hand pliers rather than the big tool that we normally use where we lay out the wood and stretch it using floor clamps. So now I'm just speeding up, finish on this left side, and I'll start getting across the whole thing, and I'll show a full video of it, or a full view of it, in a moment. So I'm going to let this play through. As you can see here, I'm just adding or peeling off the elements for the detailing up the top there, and now moving on to this bottom section. This was quite complex at the bottom here because I've got this triangle that runs, and I'm trying to get the paint right on the edge, so I'm not overlaying the grey that's already there, but also I'm trying to not have any little white lines, and one does appear, but I can touch that up as we go. Luckily, the black pen, fine black pen, will enable me to neaten the edges of each image or each shape. Sometimes the paint, once it's done, like it is now, I leave elements of masking tape on there, or the finesse tape, because I can't see it. And there has been a few paintings where I've taken it off maybe 2 or 3 years later when I've seen it. So the painting's never quite complete, but that just sometimes happens. With this, where it's the matte, you can see where the tape is, but when it's some of the older paintings are semi-gloss, you can't see it as well. Here I'm taking the edging off, and that edging is what that's the edge of the painting. So when the painting goes on the frame, as you look at the edge of the frame, it's linen. Each painting is a 2-dimensional object, not 3-dimensional, so I don't paint round the edges, it's supposed to be flat. And here's the final view of it, and I'll zoom in, up and down. Thank you for watching.